All right, in this lecture, we're going to be talking about chapter 34, which is the study of ecology. The next three chapters are actually going to be going through ecology in some depth and talking about it at various scales. So let's jump right into it. What is ecology? It's the study of interactions of living things have with one another and with their environment. And this is a pretty broad definition, as ecology is a pretty broad topic. So ecology can be all sorts of different things, and like I said, we're going to sort of dive in and talk about different examples of this. So this is kind of what you might expect an ecologist to be doing, like hanging off of a tree, maybe taking some samples, but you can also find ecologists in different places. You can find ecologists looking like in your sewers to see what sorts of things are living there. You can see ecologists studying computer models to see what the results of global warming might be. So ecology has a very broad definition because ecology is a very broad category in biology, and lots of ecologists are doing lots of different kinds of work to try and help us understand how organisms in their environments are interacting with one another. So there are the 5 scales of life that concern ecology. There are physiology, there are populations, there are communities, there are ecosystems, and then there is the biosphere. And these are all just different lenses through which ecologists attempt to look at the environment, and hopefully we'll have time to go through and look at examples of each of these. But before we do that, we kind of need to talk about the different levels at which life is organized. So the lowest level that organisms can be grouped into is populations. And populations are members of a single species that live together in a particular geographical area. So, for instance, you could say that the Central Valley, there are populations of tule elk that live in certain areas there. Or you could say, you could make it even bigger than that. You could say, well, the Central Valley has this big population of humans that all live there, and they have these certain characteristics. A community is it's all the members of a species that live in a single area. So communities are all members of all species that live somewhere. So population is a single species. A community might be, for instance, we were talking about the Central Valley, so a community would be every single species that live in the Central Valley would form that Central Valley community. So that would be humans, that would be tule elk, that would be ducks, that would be goats, that would be cows, any of the, I'm sure, tens of thousands of species that live in the Central Valley would be members of that community. An ecosystem is a community and all the living and non-living elements within it, or it would be the community and non-living elements that interact with it. So it would be like describing the weather of the Central Valley or the soils of the Central Valley. Or you could even say like the roads that run through the Central Valley would be part of that ecosystem. And the most broad category that we're going to talk about is the biosphere. It is the everything in all of Earth's ecosystems, excuse me. So the biosphere is the interactive collection of all of Earth's ecosystems. So let's go back a level. So you have populations, which are all the members of a single species. You have communities, which are all members of all species in an area. Then you have ecosystems, which are the communities and the non-living elements. And then you have the biosphere, which is all of Earth's ecosystems. So here are some examples, just using kind of sea lions as a starting point. So you have this individual organism, and then you are going to group them together into a colony of these sea lions, and that's going to be a population. So then you have the community, which would be like the kelp forest. So that's all the species that live there within this community. And then the ecosystem, the Southern California coast, is the non-living members of that community. So you've got these rocks here, you've got some shoreline, and then going out a level, you have the biosphere, which is all of the ecosystems on the Earth. So in the next lecture, we're going to talk about population dynamics.